Ever heard the phrase, snitches get stitches? Well, that remains to be seen as the snitches are ratting out the suspected culprits in the FBG DURK case. 5 members of O Block have reportedly been arrested in relation to the passing of this rapper. Who rats them out? And are they guilty as charged or not? The 5 O Block suspects. The streets are currently on fire as members of O Block have been arrested in relation to the passing of FBG DURK, who was at a boutique shopping. 5 men who are alleged to be gang members are currently being charged with federal offenses, including the popping of the Chicago rapper Carlton Weekly.
5 alleged Chicago street gang members now facing federal charges, and the charges announced today by the U.S. attorney, who says social media played a role in this case.
A federal indictment was served that charges the suspects, who are alleged to be members of the street gang O Block. They are charged with participating in a criminal organization that is responsible for the dropping of DURK. They also violently protected the gang's territories on the Chicago South Side. The indictment states that the gang used social media and music to boost their criminal organization, publicly claiming responsibility for all acts of violence that had been happening in Chicago. The gang is suspected to be involved in several acts of violence. The men that have been charged with for the case of FBG DURK are 30-year-old C. Murder, also known as Charles Liggins, 28-year-old Kenneth Roberson, also known as Kenny Mack, 30-year-old Carlos Alford, also known as Los, 22-year-old Christopher Thomas, also known as C-Thang, and Marcus Smart, also known as Muwap, who is 22 years old. The prosecution insisted that the music industry has long been helping these criminal organizations grow and gain more ground. A Chicago U.S. attorney, John Lausch, said that the music videos show the public what is really going on behind the scenes in the Chicago music scene. He said that the violence has not stopped even after FBG DURK's passing. This is a significant charge. Lausch said, adding that if the charges cause someone to pause before making a similar video, then we're doing something good. The superintendent of the Chicago Police Department, David Brown, praised the collaboration that they had with the federal law enforcement agents in solving the case. He explained that it is an example of holding the offenders that are found guilty accountable for their sins.
We are going after gangs in this city. We are working together to hold gang members accountable for violence.
We are going after the gangs in the city, Brown said. Brown went on to make more statements, expressing his joy that the police department would now be focused on gangs. He enunciated that they have been serious with handling the problem to reduce the violence in Chicago with the help of federal agents. Brown announced they would be distributing many community safety team officers. This was originally a roving citywide unit that is tasked with nothing other than responding to residents that are experiencing any type of violence. He also deployed specific units all through the department. This is part of an ongoing strategy to cut down on gangs, drugs, and guns. It's the message that we're serious about collaboration. Brown said, more to come, we're dedicated to this. FBG DURK gets popped. Before we go any further, let's find out how this happened to begin with. What led to these arrests? Reports of FBG DURK getting popped quickly soared through the net as different stories began sourcing from various places. Here's what actually happened. The Chicago rapper that was known as DURK was dropped in a retail shopping district. Chicago has always been known to suffer from high levels of violence, and this was just another name of the board as DURK went from an is to a was in such little time. The Chicago rapper's real name was Carlton Weekly, and he was reportedly shot by 4 people who came out of 2 different cars. These men pumped the man full of lead and fled the scene shortly afterward. The shooting happened in the Gold Coast area in one of the luxury boutiques in the city's shopping district downtown. This happened in 2020, and police said that the crime rate had risen to about 152% over the course of the year. Weekly wasn't the only one that was caught in the crossfire. There were several bystanders who were caught in the altercation, among which 2 of them, a man and a woman, were taken to the hospital for treatment. The police had no suspects in the case until now. They originally closed off all the streets to investigate the unfortunate event, reviewing various security footage to try and identify the culprits who were still at large. The case was almost closed off as gun violence is usually a common occurrence in the region. Why could these men have ganged up against Weekly to start with? DURK rose to stardom in 2018 when he dropped his single, Slide. This showed great promise and was later remixed by 21 Savage. This was when he really hit it off well. He got his start in the drill scene in 2013 and has been been dropping songs until he finally came to the limelight. People mourned his passing on social media and beyond. Student anti-violence group GOODKIDS, MADCITY, was also part of this demonstration. It showed how brokenhearted they were to have lost someone close to them. In the attack, the glass of the storefront was shattered, as police showed in pictures from the aftermath of this altercation. An activist in the Chicago community, Jamal Green, said that he had heard from friends of the deceased that he was coming from Saks Fifth Avenue when he met his untimely passing. He was pretty popular, and at the end of the day, there are going to be a lot of people angry at this. A lot of young people are going to lose hope because he was an idol. It's going to take the city a large effort to help young people cope with this loss, Mr. Green said.
BG Duck was well respected in the city, was well loved, but
the indictment. These men's charges include firearm violations by the mile, assaults in aid of racketeering. They were arrested and are scheduled to be arraigned in court before a U.S. magistrate, Judge M. David Wiseman. Roberson is currently in custody for other charges in the Cook County Department of Corrections. His court appearance is scheduled to occur at a later date. Liggins, Alford, Thomas, and Smart were first arrested and will be having their hearing before Roberson. The indictment was announced by John R. Lausch, Jr., known as a United States Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois. Emerson Bowie, Jr., special agent in charge of the Chicago field office of the FBI, and David Brown, superintendent of the Chicago Police Department, were all involved in the induction. A healthy amount of assistance in the investigation was provided by the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. The Assistant U.S. Attorneys Jason A. Julian and Marie Ursini and Albert Berry III are representing the government in this case. They issued an announcement reminding the public to stay calm and keep their heads on. An indictment is not evidence of guilt, but proof that the defendants are deserving of a fair trial to prove their innocence in the matter. That might be what is being said, but we all know how the streets work. Someone snitched and everybody is acting bad to find out who they are. The counts on the indictment warrant a mandatory minimum life sentence in a federal prison. At maximum is a potential life penalty. One of the firearm counts is also punishable by a maximum life penalty potential, while the other firearm count has a mandatory minimum of about 10 years in a federal prison or a life sentence. The assault counts can go as high as 20 years in prison if found guilty. If any of these men are convicted, the court is mandated to impose sentences befitted of the crime under federal sentencing statutes and the advisory U.S. sentencing guidelines. Who snitched on O-Block members? While it might be easier to simply assume that someone snitched on these guys, maybe there's another perspective we haven't considered yet. It could be due to an inability to cover their tracks. What federal agents used as a basis for this arrest was the minor case of a license plate. Were they snitched, or did they just forget to change cars? I mean, who registers a car under their name and goes on a drive-by with it, right? The recent reports show that the gang member bought the car in his own name, and the same car was used in the slaying of the Chicago rapper FBG Duck. Reports say that he returned the car less than 2 hours after the purchase to try and cover his track. The car dealership accused him of lying on the financing application, according to what the prosecutor said in a detention hearing. The O-Block member Tekashi Alford, age 30, was one of the 5 members who were charged with racketeering, conspiracy, and the alleged demise of the rapper Carlton Weekly. The rapper is currently being held without a bond as prosecutors revealed new details on the case in the hearing. The new evidence that came to light in this high-profile case shows that Alford used his name in the purchase of a vehicle at a car dealership on July 28th. This happened a week before the slaying of the rapper. There are even photographs from the car dealership that shows him standing next to the car. An assistant U.S. attorney, Albert Berry, said that the Chicago police were able to use plate readers, cameras, and other surveillance footage to place the car on the day of the shooting. The car that Alford had purchased was headed to the first block of Oak Street. It showed 2 gunmen jumping out of the car and opening fire on Duck, who was standing outside a crowded street, according to the attorney, Berry. He also said that other gunmen came out from a second car that was trailing behind them. A total of 38 shots were fired at the rapper, fatally injuring him. As you might have guessed, the rapper gave up the ghost on the scene, with the onslaught fatally injuring 2 others before the car sped away from the scene. Within the time range of the shooting, it is said that Alford returned the car to the dealership, who found out that he had lied about his employment in his financial application. It's a heinous crime, Berry said in asking U.S. Magistrate Judge David Wiseman to deny bond. This was a crowded street in broad daylight. Others could have been injured. The defendant's attorney, in spite of the overwhelming evidence, argued that buying a car is not proof of his client's involvement in the shooting. He said that his client made no admissions of being involved in weekly slang. His attorney, John Somerville, said Alford is a lifelong resident, that he has 4 children, and has never been to prison. What did he do? He could have been miles away with no participation in or knowledge of the offense, Somerville said. Why would he go buy a car in his own name, sign a contract, and then go and commit this shooting? The judge in charge of the case did, however, direct that Alford be held in custody regardless, pending the trial. It was decided that he was indeed a danger to the community, even in the 2020s when the level of violence was way up there. The passing away of DURK stood out mainly as a result of his status in the music industry and how brazen the fatal attack was. Lil Durk and O Block. It's pretty clear to the public that rapper Lil Durk is a member of the O Block. At some point, when the area was up for sale, the rapper said on Twitter that he was going to purchase it, but that was the last we heard before it was later sold. O Block has been touted as the most dangerous block in the city. The block has been immortalized in more ways than one, speaking volumes of mayhem, retribution offings, and the popping of several icons in the music industry. Despite all these, the members have always made sure to protect the block. In August 2020, rapper 6ix9ine provoked Lil Durk, King Von, and other rappers when he went to O Block to pay respect to Durk's cousin, Newski. 6ix9ine was seen bringing flowers to O Block. This didn't sit well with the members and fellow Chicago rapper. Lil Reese fired back saying, "I heard you just tried to sneak on the block, bro. LOL. Don't lose your life plan on the internet, 6ix9ine." The beef between O Block members and other rappers usually has a bad way of ending. The beef between Lil Durk and NBA Youngboy, for instance. This is usually deadly, with retribution-type violence to characterize how this gang's members move. NBA Youngboy's song did not only trigger Lil Durk, but other members of O Block who caught wind of its provocative lyrics. The lyrics appear to be dissing King Von, and they have not made their displeasure about this hidden. The members have taken to social media to share their reactions about this online. They are currently threatening a fresh new wave of violence, as it seems.
O Block back get rolled up, murder what they told us, and little boy get folded up.
NBA Youngboy raps in his song, Bring the Hook, while seemingly referencing King Von's passing that happened in Atlanta in November 2020. The lyrics of this song have caused the members of the O Block gang to retaliate. They would not sit by as they burnt 4KT green flags. These are generally associated with NBA Youngboy, who has affiliations with Quando Rondo. He is considered to be against O Block and the late King Von. A video that showed the men enthusiastically burning the green flags was shared online. It is no doubt a message that they have heard him and will not take the insults sitting down. Although what they are saying in the video is unclear, it appears that they will not take the insults being piled on their dead friend. The question of who snitched remains on the minds of fans. Who snitched on O Block and who is getting stitches? A lot of people want to know what is really going on, but it looks like they didn't cover their tracks all too well and might be well on their way to paying for it.